Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out The Great Smog of 1952, a short documentary. Fascinating horror. It's a lot of smoke.
On the 5th of December 1952, an unusually heavy fog descended on London in the UK. It remained in place for 5 days, bringing the capital to a standstill, and yet it caused no panic. Fog was a common phenomenon within London, and as dramatic as this fog was, it was thought of as just another example of typically British weather. It wouldn't be until much later that the true cost of the Great Smog of 1952 was realised.
What happened? Y'all be sure to go to Fascinating Horror and like and subscribe. I have heard London is foggy. London Fog, that's a brand, right? I think. Recently though, maybe a few months ago, within the last 6 months, there's been a lot of fog. You guys heard about that? Maybe it's just a conspiracy thing. There's a lot of that, but it might be real. I mean, fog is real. I think it caught my attention because it was really foggy in Los Angeles for a couple days, and then I saw some videos about it in other places of the world where it was extra foggy. So like, what's going on with the fog? What's going on with the fog? Why was this fog here? Was it from factories or was it from the weather? Or a combination? Let's find out.
London is an incredibly densely populated city. With so many people and so much industry concentrated in one place, it has always suffered from poorer air quality than other cities in the UK.
That's normal, right?
Even in Victorian times, the city was infamous for its foggy streets. Writers at the time referred to these fogs as pea soupers, an allusion to the colour and density of the fog being similar to that of soup.
Pea soup. Funny.
There was some improvement in London's air quality as the city entered the 1900s, but by 1952 pollution was still very much a problem. At that time, coal was still a common power source, with numerous coal-burning power plants situated within the boundaries of London.
All that coal burning, and then all those new automobiles with the dirty gas? With lead in it?
Coal was also an important domestic fuel. Londoners had been burning a great deal of it to heat their homes during the particularly cold winter of 1952. With the Second World War having concluded less than a decade ago, resources were still a little thin on the ground. Most people, therefore, were reduced to burning low-quality coal, which didn't combust very cleanly.
Okay, interesting. So it was super cold that winter, so people burned more coal. It was also so soon after the war that they had to get cheap coal, which didn't burn as clean. Okay, so there's two factors right there.
The sum of all these factors was that London produced a huge amount of air pollution. Weather conditions on the 5th of December 1952 conspired to trap this pollution within the city. A complete lack of wind combined with a zone of high atmospheric pressure, effectively pushing the warm air rising from chimneys and smokestacks straight back down to street level.
Oh, so low wind and strong atmospheric pressure just pushed all that smoke down. That would usually float away. Nightmare.
The byproducts of domestic fireplaces and factories all over the city quickly formed a foggy blanket, thick enough to cover all but the tallest of buildings. The fog was severe on the first day, and it got worse with each day that passed, with factories continuing to belch pollution into the atmosphere at an astonishing rate. 1 million kilograms, or 1,000 metric tons of smoke, and 2 million kilograms, or 2,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide, for example, were released each and every day, swamping the city.
It's hard to understand how much that is. 1,000 metric tons of smoke and 2 million kilograms or 2,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide. Wow.
Londoners were used to fog, but this was on another level.
It's got a mask.
This fog was extremely thick and dense, restricting visibility to just a few strides.
Oh.
In some places it had a yellowish or greenish hue, and many reported that it stank of rotten eggs. something which led people to don masks or other face coverings whenever they had to venture outside.
A few strides? So, like maybe 10 feet? You could see around 10 feet? And it was yellowish green? Whoa. I wouldn't go outside. I would stay inside with a plastic bag over my head.
Despite the noxious appearance of the fog, few people were worried about air quality. Visibility was a much more pressing issue. The city's transport networks seized up. Barely any planes could take off or land, and the vast majority of flights were diverted to other airports. Buses and other forms of above-ground public transit were cancelled, as drivers simply couldn't see far enough to safely complete their routes.
Wow.
This left the London Underground as the only available means of public transport for millions of Londoners. Private transport was equally affected. Roads became blocked by multiple accidents, and even those roads that were still moving were doing so with agonizing slowness. While the fog caused travel chaos...
Yeah, if you could only see a few feet in front of you. I'm driving slow. I assume all these photos are from then, right? So eerie.
While the fog caused travel chaos, it also represented an opportunity for thieves. With almost zero visibility and police unable to get around, crime skyrocketed.
Makes
There
sense.
were hundreds of reports of robberies and muggings, with the thieves getting away under cover of the fog.
Yeah, that's terrifying. You can only see like 10 feet away. Someone could just run up to you, mug you, run off. You can't even see them. Nothing you could do. Where'd they go? You have no idea. Wow, I would not go outside.
This wave of opportunistic crime, most ordinary activities came to a halt. Sporting fixtures were called off when it became apparent that the spectators could not see the players could not see one another, and nobody at all could see the ball.
Oh, that's hilarious, though. Wow. He's trying to look. Dude, you can't see the goal. You can't see the ball coming. You can't see the ball to kick it. Disaster.
Workers were sent home from their offices, or could not make it into work in the first place. Schools were closed, and even theatre performances were affected. Several were cancelled when fog seeped in through windows and doors and filled the auditorium.
Oh.
Personal accounts...
Oh, that's so weird. I feel like now, I'm feeling like we take advantage of the absence of fog, don't we? Wow. It's crippling. If this happened out in the country somewhere, in some little village, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? But because there's millions of people packed together, it's a nightmare. Wow.
From those who were alive at the time, auditorium. Personal accounts from those who were alive at the time give some idea of what it must have been like to navigate London during the smog.
I remember walking to school with a woolen scarf wrapped tightly around my mouth and nose. That's smart. Feeling our way along the hedgerows, holding hands to not get lost, the black soot on the scarf when I took it off at school.
Feeling their way along hedges on their way to school, and holding hands with their friends so as not to become separated. Elsewhere, commuters were escorted through the streets by policemen bearing torches, or else used the light glinting off overhead electric trolley lines to find their way. When, or if, people arrived at their destinations, many found their clothes blackened with soot, and couldn't stop coughing for days.
Oh wow, well that's dangerous. This cop has a flare. What do you do? This is reminding me of the LA fires we just had. After I came home from evacuating, I taped all my windows shut. I don't know if it helped. It kept the smoky smell out, but I don't know if it would keep the smog out, you know? Maybe it would. Probably be okay. I don't know. Freaky, y'all. Freaky.
Some people reported taking lamps out into the street and still seeing nothing. Around the Isle of Dogs, many people noted that the fog was too thick for them to even see their own feet.
Wow.
Doctors found themselves in high demand, but at the same time, struggled to complete house calls because of the fog.
They can't go anywhere.
Given that the Underground was the only remaining viable way to get around, queues for tickets stretched into the thousands.
I
For
didn't think of
5
that.
days, London endured the Great Smog. And then, as the weather changed, the fog cleared away. The city, which had been trapped in a perpetual twilight for 5 long days, started moving again.
Okay.
Roads cleared, bus services resumed, and Londoners returned to work after one of the strangest weekends that many had ever experienced.
Oh, it happened over a weekend? That's no fun. I used to live in Atlanta, and it would snow there at least once a year, but that's not enough for the city to invest in snowplows, so the whole city would just shut down because they didn't have the snowplows to remove the snow from the streets. Whole city shuts down. No work, no school. It's a good excuse to be lazy. It was actually pretty fun. But we were not in danger of breathing poison.
It took some time before the real impact of the fog was known. Respiratory illness is a quiet killer, and in this case, those it killed were mostly the sick or the elderly.
People died from it.
Doctors in hospitals across the capital noted that they'd experienced an unusually high level of mortality during the fog, and doubtless made an association between the two. The average Londoner, however, had no reason to think that the smog was anything other than just some very severe, inclement weather. Months would pass before the wave of deaths and respiratory illnesses was noticed.
The rise in deaths in the week after London's Great Fog early in December was greater than that in the worst week of the cholera epidemic of 1866. Wow.
And even once it had been noticed, the impact was extremely difficult to gauge.
Yeah.
Many of those who were affected didn't pass away during the fog, but instead had their lives massively shortened. Someone who died prematurely from respiratory illness a year after the Great Smog, for example, might not have been counted as part of the death toll.
Right.
Even so, the most conservative estimates as to the number of deaths state that at least 4,000 people were killed by the smog.
Wow. Wow. It's a silent killer, isn't it? You know the weather app on your phone? Before I lived in Los Angeles, I checked it every morning before I would, just to see what I need to wear, to see if it's going to rain. Now when I check it, it's always sunny. It's always warm and sunny most of the time. Right now it's 60 degrees Fahrenheit. No rain. Look at the next week. All sun. But, so it's kind of useless to check the weather. But what I do look at is the air quality index. Right now it's good. It's green. But without any warning, it'll be air quality warning. Do not go outside. People with sickness. PM 2.5 particles that will get into your lungs and poisonous air. Freaky.
The smog and the chaos it caused were a wake-up call for many. Hundreds of those who endured it noted that the experience changed their attitude towards the environment.
Okay, good.
It certainly moved air quality up the political agenda. And in 1956, the Clean Air Act was introduced.
Great.
This legislation made mandatory the use of smokeless fuels in built-up areas.
Smokeless fuels. What's a smokeless fuel? An act to make provision for abating the pollution of the air. Prohibition of dark smoke from chimneys. How do you do that? Subject to the provision of this act, dark smoke shall not be emitted from a chimney of any building, and if on any day dark smoke is emitted, the occupier of the building shall be guilty of an offense. Okay.
It limited the amount of air pollution factories were allowed to disperse into the atmosphere.
Oh, that's good.
While the Act itself has been updated and replaced several times over the years, many of its principles have remained in place to this day. As a consequence, the air quality in London has significantly improved. The most visible and odorous pollutants have been cracked down on particularly hard, leaving the city looking and smelling far better than it might have done 70 years ago. It is unlikely that there will ever be another incident like the Great Smog of 1952. However, the problem of air pollution in the city has not been resolved. By some estimates, almost 4,000 Londoners die prematurely each year as a result of air pollution.
That's the exact same number as people who probably died from the Great Fog. So really, the Great Fog is happening once a year. If you look at the number of deaths,
That's the same number as were killed by the Great Smog.
I just said that.
In contrast to the Great Smog, though, these deaths occur year on year and are considered largely unremarkable. The Great Smog of London was dramatic and terrifying for those who endured it. But the dramatic nature of it was what opened the door to such decisive and meaningful change in the aftermath. Politicians and lawmakers couldn't ignore the issue of air pollution when they could both see and smell it in their streets.
Yeah.
Given that another smog is unlikely to hit the city today, the issue of air pollution
You don't
is
know.
one which still looms large, but which, at the same time, has become very easy to ignore.
Y'all be sure to go to Fascinating Horror and like and subscribe. This wasn't really horror, though, was it? It's just like historical documentary. Pollution comparison between Los Angeles and London. Pollution index: Los Angeles 67.94, London 58.05, PM 2.5s. Los Angeles is 12 and London is 12. So pretty similar, but I can imagine being in London, not being able to see more than 10 feet in front of you. So weird. Were any of you in that? Any of you experience that? Not being in it and looking into it, it seems like kind of a fun change of scenery, you know? Mysterious, creepy. 5 days of it might get a little old, and knowing that it's killing me, that's a nightmare. That's a nightmare. Well, I guess it's good that that happened because it changed the environmental policies. Or at least just made the pollution more invisible. No dark smoke. You can have plenty of light smoke, which might be just as poisonous or more poisonous, we don't know. But as long as it's not dark smoke, you're good. Well, yeah, I'd like to thank my patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel, check out patreon.com/JJLAReacts. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/ I don't know, there's a link in the description. Probably. Maybe check out my other reaction channel, JJLA Reacts Music, where I react to music. I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.